Okay, YouTubers, this is the Angryprepper. So today's video, we're going to talk about when the ultimate disaster happens to you. Now, this video is because when I was in Indiana and Mississippi, rather when I was doing the hurricane relief thing, I noticed, guys, that a lot of people, I don't know if they were preppers or not, so I can't say whether or not they were. But I put myself in a situation, especially numerous homes that were completely and utterly destroyed by the tornado. And it lends to how we prepare and how many more things we need as preppers. So point being, guys, or rather, the point I'm trying to make is that we probably need more stuff than we need, and we need more locations to put these things, if that makes any sense. So for a lot of people who lived in Tornado Alley, I mean, there were people who their homes, garage, sheds, gone. Everything that was on their property was relocated in the worst possible way. So as I'm walking through, I'm noticing, the damage. So I remember one home specifically where the home collapsed on the people. They were both able to get out, but their basement flooded. Now I'm wondering if a water pipe broke and flooded the basement, but preppers would put stuff in a basement, especially a basement that doesn't flood. Well, this basement flooded. And though it wasn't I don't know what kind of water it was. I'm hoping it wasn't sewer water, but because they're on city main, if that would have flooded, they would have had to dredge through there to get their shit out, right? So now if their preps were in the home, at the very least at that home specifically, when it collapsed, they wouldn't be able to dig through it to get the rest of their prep. Their garage was gone. That took a ride. But then, so I'm like, all right, so they had the garage, they had the home that collapsed on them, they had the basement, but if they put stuff in the garage or the attic, it was done, right? The attic, not so much, because it would have been on top of the home. But then the one lady next door to them, everything was gone. Her garage, her shed, and her house, gone. So if she would have had preps in there, that all would have been gone. So now I'm looking at how to problem solve if I was to end up here. Now, these people didn't normally get tornadoes, so when it happened, they were like, shit. But now, guys, the possibility of tornadoes ending up or happening in odd spots that normally don't get them, it's on the table. Hurricanes heading up further east now, that's on the table. So we have to think differently now, guys, in case that ultimate disaster ends up hitting us. Here in New York, we don't tend to deal with much. But again, hurricanes coming up further up the East Coast is going to be a problem for the foreseeable future. Then there's also that they keep reminding us that we have a fault line. We have one in Ramapo, which is upstate, and there's another one at 125th Street in the city. They're saying that those can get active at any time. I don't see it happening, but nonetheless, they threw that warning out there. I'm still trying to prepare for something like that. In the very, very small, minute chance that it happens, I still want to be ready. I don't want to be caught with my pants down. So I plan for that, right? I put my stuff, if you will, my preps in a storage unit, hoping that storage unit doesn't collapse. Because, yes, the chances of an earthquake happening is small. But if it was, both buildings, I hope, wouldn't collapse. And if one did and I survived, at least I have preps in the other one. Plus, I have a third spot in the Bronx. So all three of them collapsing is highly unlikely. Still, it's me thinking of ways on how to get out of a bad situation. I live in a city. If the earthquake takes those bridges out, I have a raft to get across the other side of the river. I have two rafts to get across the other side of the river. Still, guys, I still try to find ways, and I still try to problem solve every single incident that happens. With the tornado, when I was prepping, I've heard of tornadoes, and I always said, "Oh, that sucks." But until I was able to visit an actual place that was hit, I was like, "Whoa, what would I do if I was living here?" So these are things we have to think about, guys. You have to think about the smallest chances of something happening to the greatest chances of something happening. This is why we prepare, right? We don't prepare for just one thing. You got to prepare for it all and hope none of it happens, right? So again, here in the city, I'm more like, we had civil unrest. We saw what that looked like a couple years ago. And that didn't affect us in the sense that I didn't need to go to my preps to handle that. Now, had it been something that was ongoing and major, maybe at some point I would have to. There are people who lived in areas where their neighborhood stores were completely destroyed. And if they were preppers, they had to rely on their preps. Like those cities, guys, where they burnt the Targets down and raided the Walmarts and there was no food left. Those stores were closed for up to a week. If you had preps, you were squared away. You didn't have to jump in your car and travel to the next town. But if you didn't have preps, you had to jump in your car and travel to the next town. Some people had to get on a bus to go to the next town because they didn't have cars or their cars were damaged. So again, guys, you have to think of ways of how to make the situation better and be ready for that situation. At the very least, be ready for that situation mentally, so that when a situation does happen, mentally you're like, all right, I had a feeling this is going to happen. This is what we're going to do, right? And so you have to put yourself in every last scenario that can happen, whether it's a less than 1% chance or 100% chance of happening. Between those ranges, guys, you have to prepare for what could be coming. When those people were hit with the tornado in Indiana, they didn't think they were going to be hit with a tornado in Indiana. They said that they've never seen a tornado come up this way. They have had tornado warnings. The Bluff, which was, I think, 4 or 5 miles south of them, normally stopped the tornadoes. But this time it jumped the Bluff, which they've never seen, and continued its path. So the fact that they said they've never seen that, and especially the old lady who looked like she's been there for 1,000 years saying this, that's saying that there's things that are changing, guys, and we need to be prepared for all of it. Every last bit of it, as much as we possibly can. And at the very least, psychologically be ready for it as well. Now, with the tornado, guys, the best solution right now is digging underground, putting your preps in the ground, getting yourself a storm shelter. Some places call it a safe room, getting one of those, getting that placed in the ground. There are a lot of states do reimbursement programs for the storm shelters, but they call them safe rooms now. Whatever they call it, guys, look it up in your area. Look up the DOH in your area and type in safe room or storm shelters and see if they have a reimbursement program, or at the very least showing you how to build one, because that's where you're going to want to put your preps now. Especially if you live in an area that got hit by a tornado once, it could happen again. Start putting your shit in the ground. Keep stuff in the house as well, but keep stuff in the storm shelter as well. All right, guys, other than that, this is the Angry Prepper. Thank you for watching.